Okay, Josh, this is a video for all you Big Ten lovers or SEC haters. I've been making this during the college football season. I didn't end up finishing with the other. It was for all the Power Five, but already the Big 12 was actually lagging pretty bad, and the ACC had a horrible bowl season. So since I'd during the regular season sort of cut off at week 8. I didn't end up finishing, but I did for the SEC and the Big Ten to make a point. As you can see, blue is, these non-conference wins. They're like, either against a group of 5 or FCS. Obviously some group of 5s are pretty good. Like, Boise State, obviously, if you beat Boise State, that's a good win. If you beat Tulane, that's a good win. If you beat, I'm trying to think of another good group of 5. I would say UNLV, that's a good win. UNLV. Memphis, that would be a good one. So if you're beating those teams, I'm going to give it yellow. That's a good win. And then sort of this, brownish color. That's a loss to a good team. This really dark color here is a loss to a team that I would consider bad. So it would have to be a group of 5 that was not ranked ever. Like, for instance, even though Western Kentucky went to their conference championship game, they're still not a good team. And if Alabama lost to them, that would be a red loss. Versus if Alabama lost, or if Auburn lost, they did lose to California. Even though California wasn't good, they at least were in a Power 5 setting, and they did almost knock out Miami early on. So it's just things like that. But anyways, enough about that. That's just sort of explain. Oh yeah, green and red, just normal red. Conference losses, and then green is, of course, conference wins. This is the SEC. We've got all the teams here. You come over here to the end. Of course, you see their bowl game. You're like, okay, we lost to Michigan. Oh yeah, any team in the bowl game, whether it's, even if it's Navy, for instance. Like if you got to a bowl game, you're gonna be a good team. I feel like that's justified to be, either all yellow or all sort of red. And I mean, some of these teams were actually pretty good. But yeah, so anyways, you come over here, bowl games, you're like, okay, well, SC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses. I'm sorry, 7 losses with Ohio State. And so, you have a winning record in bowl games. It's not terrible. It wasn't great. It was barely a winning record. But then you look at this. Okay, so you got 2 really bad losses. These are the non-Power 4. It was Toledo and Georgia State. And, of course, Toledo beat our very worst team. Mississippi State was awful. And they also and then the Georgia State was against Vanderbilt, who I don't know what was going on with Vanderbilt in that game, because they were not like that for the rest of the year. We had 14 non-conference losses that were decent losses, like Michigan or Notre Dame or Ohio State, teams like that. 22 good wins. So this is the part that's important, I think, that you need to keep in mind. So, the SEC, people are always like, oh, well, they play 4, each team plays 4 non-conference games. Yeah. Well, we did end up playing in the regular season more good non-conference games than the Big Ten did. So the Big Ten, who's they played less of these bad teams than us, but we played in the regular season. That's just because we had, think about it, you got 4 times 16, so you got, what was that, 64 games that are not, they're just in the regular season. They're not part of your they're not going to be part of your conference. And then I'm trying to think, is there 8? I think it's 18 with the Big Ten. So anyways, you see, so 18 times 3, so you're going to be playing 50, would be 52, no, 54 games. That they'll be playing. So it's not a huge difference between the two as far as, amount of games played, but we do end up playing more of the big teams than they did. And we had 22 wins, 14 losses to the big teams, and then 2 of those terrible losses. You go to the Big Ten, they had 0 of the bad losses. I mean, that's always something to be proud of. 16 losses to these teams. So they actually had the same amount of losses overall because, well, no, that's not right. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. Yeah. 14 plus 2. Yeah. So they had 16 losses overall to these non-conference games. So that's the same amount. They had 17 good wins, and then they just filled up their roster, with those, out of those 54 games, 36 of it were these little teams. And a lot of those, I didn't bother. I just didn't have the time to reflect on FCS versus FBS. I will say this, with the Big Ten, they actually did play a lot more FCS schools than the SEC. Well, I say a lot more. They played a few more than the SEC this year, and that's with the SEC playing more out of conference games. So then you're like, okay, well, what's the percentage here? Well, what you would do is you would take all their losses, combine it with all their good wins. I feel like you can just leave those out, just because that gets rid of the, the SEC played more, and if they win almost all of them, then it, inflates their statistics. Well, just take out the bad wins and then just only take losses and then the good wins. You take that, so it would be for the Big Ten, it'd be 33. So it'd be 17 divided by 33. So it's like 51%. So they have a 51% win rate when it comes to important wins, and then versus their losses. And then with the SEC, it's 38. I forgot about the 2 on the top. 38 divided by 22, which is just about a 56% win percentage out of these good wins versus all their losses. And so it's just like, shut up, you Big Ten losers. I mean, so frustrating. Like, yeah, you had Ohio State, and Ohio State was phenomenal this year. But if you look at their teams, it's just like, are you kidding me? Like even Mississippi State would be able to easily take on Purdue. Like, Purdue is hot trash. Purdue is so bad. Indiana, they would have gotten clapped by most of the teams in the SEC, by 50% of them for sure. It's just frustrating. So, anyways, this is for you guys. Hope you appreciate it.